I chose land over $35 million. My husband laughed and called me worthless. 3 months later, he came back. Not to apologize, but to show me what I lost. But when he saw what I built, he didn't speak. He froze completely. I will take this land instead of 35 million. The lawyer paused. My husband didn't. Take her, he said, laughing under his breath. She's nothing but a burden, and worthless to me. That was the moment my marriage ended, not legally, not emotionally, strategically. Because 3 months later, he came back with someone new, and when he saw what I had done with that land, he didn't speak. He froze. The room smelled like polished wood and cold decisions. Divorce offices always do. Everything about that space was designed to strip things down to numbers. Assets, liabilities, percentages. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes the most valuable thing in the room is the one thing nobody understands. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Mrs. Carter, the offer stands. 35 million in liquid assets, immediate transfer. I didn't answer. Across the table, Daniel leaned back in his chair like he had already won, because in his mind, he had. You should take it, he said casually. It's more than you deserve. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time in years, I realized something. He had no idea who he had been married to. The land wasn't impressive, not at first glance, no skyline, no luxury developments, no immediate value, just 48 acres of quiet, overlooked terrain. Most people would call it nothing. Daniel did. That piece of dirt? He laughed. You'd be stupid to take it over cash. The lawyer nodded slightly as if trying to help me. This is a very generous offer. I stayed silent, because what they saw was land. What I saw was timing. I'll take the land. The words landed heavier than I expected. Daniel blinked. Excuse me? The land, I repeated calmly, instead of the 35 million. There was a pause. Then he laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not a confused laugh. A relieved one. Like I had just proven exactly what he believed about me. Perfect, he said, shaking his head. That makes things easy. Easy. That word stayed with me, because easy is what people choose when they don't understand risk. And Daniel never understood risk. He only understood control. The papers were signed in under an hour, just like that. A marriage of 11 years was reduced to signatures and silence. As we stood up to leave, Daniel leaned closer to me. You'll regret this, he said quietly. I smiled. Maybe, I replied. But what I didn't say was that regret requires ignorance, and I wasn't ignorant anymore. The first week after the divorce, I did nothing. No announcements, no reactions, no explanations. That's the mistake most people make. They react too fast. They move emotionally. They show their hand. I didn't. Instead, I observed. Because the truth about power is simple. It doesn't belong to the loudest person in the room. It belongs to the one who understands what's coming next. The land had a history, not a public one, but a quiet one, buried in zoning discussions, infrastructure proposals, and private investment meetings that never made headlines. I had seen it before. Years ago, back when Daniel thought I was just helping with his business. Back when he ignored the reports I read, the patterns I noticed. He thought I wasn't paying attention. He was wrong. The first call I made wasn't to a developer. It was to a surveyor, then a legal consultant. Then someone Daniel would never think to contact, a logistics planner. Because the value of land isn't what it is today. It's what it connects to tomorrow. And this land was about to become a connection point. 3 weeks later, the rumors started. Nothing official, nothing confirmed, but enough. A transportation expansion, a commercial corridor, a private investment group acquiring surrounding properties quietly. Prices began shifting, slowly, then faster. I didn't react. I didn't sell. I didn't speak. Because the real move wasn't to follow the market. It was to let the market follow me. Meanwhile, Daniel moved on. Of course he did. Men like him always do. New apartment, new routines, new woman, younger, polished, exactly the kind of person who made him feel like he was still winning. I heard about her through mutual contacts. They said she was impressive, confident, ambitious. I smiled when I heard that, because ambition without information is just noise. By the second month, the land was no longer nothing. Developers started calling. At first casually, then seriously, then urgently. I declined every offer, not because they were low, but because they were early. And early money is almost always impatient money. I wasn't impatient, I was precise. The announcement came in the third month, exactly when I expected it. A major infrastructure project, public, confirmed, backed by investors Daniel respected. The kind of announcement that changes everything overnight. That turns worthless land into leverage. That morning, my phone didn't stop ringing. Offers flooded in, double, triple, then more. People who had ignored that land for years suddenly needed it. And needed it fast. Because whoever controlled that land controlled access. And access is everything. That's when Daniel called, the first time since the divorce. I didn't answer. He called again and again. Then he texted, "We need to talk." We. That word was interesting because 3 months ago, there was no we. There was just me, being a burden. I agreed to meet, not because I needed to, but because timing matters. We met at a restaurant he used to like. He arrived with her. Of course he did. Confident, relaxed, still thinking this was a conversation he controlled. Until he saw me, not the same version he left behind. Something quieter, sharper, more intentional. Then it happened, the moment. He looked at me, then at the documents in my hand, then back at me again. And I watched it, in real time. The realization, the shift, the understanding. "What is this?" he asked. I placed the papers on the table. "An update," I said calmly. He read quickly at first, then slower, then he stopped. His face changed, not anger, not frustration, something deeper, recognition, because for the first time, he understood. The land, the timing, the strategy, everything he had dismissed and was now standing in front of him, multiplied. The girl next to him leaned in. "What is it?" she asked softly. He didn't answer, because there was nothing to say. The numbers spoke for themselves. The same land he laughed at was now worth more than everything he had taken, combined. "You knew," he said finally. It wasn't a question. I held his gaze. "I paid attention," I replied. "There's a difference." He sat back slowly, silent, frozen, just like I remembered. Except this time, he wasn't in control. "I want in," he said. Of course he did. That's what people like him always want. Access, control, a second chance. I shook my head. "No." Simple, clean, final. "You said I was a burden," I added. I decided to stop being one. As I stood up to leave, he said my name. Not loudly, not confidently, just uncertain. I turned back once, long enough to say the only thing that mattered. "Some people take money," I said. "Others take position." Then I smiled. And position changes everything. I walked out, and for the first time in 11 years, I wasn't reacting, I wasn't explaining, I wasn't proving anything. I had already done that, silently, strategically, completely. Because the truth is, he didn't lose me at the divorce. He lost me the moment he stopped paying attention.